The Walking Dead Season 8, Episode 6, The King, the Widow, and Rick. I love that Rick just, it's just Rick. This was a pretty interesting episode. We get to see Alexandria kind of take front in this episode. We do, of course, still have our storylines with Rick, and then technically with the Kingdom, it's mostly revolved around seeing Carol and her doing her thing. But it's a big step towards the Alexandrians, or mostly Rick's group within Alexandria, and what they're doing. And I thought it was really cool. We get to see Carl actually find Sadiq, who I don't remember at all from the comic books, if I'm being totally honest. Maybe it's more recent stuff, so I haven't seen as much of his character, especially with him being in this story arc. That's right where I'm at in the comic, where I ended it. So I don't really remember his character at all. I don't remember this dude. I just know he's from the comics because someone else mentioned the name of the character. So it's okay, so, it's Carl meeting with him, asking him the questions, which I always like that. For some reason, that's one of those things where it's that continuing thread throughout the series, but it only comes up every once in a while, because they've met, a ton of new people, but it hasn't been that sort of situation where it's this one person randomly out in the world. And they may have done that, last season, but it's always maybe once every couple of seasons or something. But ever since they've, come up with that rule, we have to ask people these 3 questions, we see it come up every once in a while, and I for some reason I just really like that they stick to that, because it's just one of the little things that they added seasons ago that we don't really see that often, but every time it shows up, it's okay, it's just one of those little world building moments. So Carl meets Sadiq. They have admittedly a pretty stupid moment where they go through and good reasoning, because it's honoring their dead parents, especially because with Sadiq he mentions his mother, and of course Carl has that same connection. So of course it's honor your parents. We're gonna take out these zombies that are eating this animal. And they go in, and it was supposed to be simple, and I think it was just three little walkers at first just kneeling down. They turn around, and it's alright, they can take these, they can take them out, no problem. Turns out it was a huge freaking problem, because they could not deal with that. Carl gets knocked down by one. I felt, Sadiq, I think, took out one, and then he was dealing with the one that had, the spike through it. Carl was dealing with the first one for 100 million years, and then he finally threw it off after he was pushed into the body of, I think it was a deer. And so he's struggling with it, and then he sees another one come up. He's oh crap. So he's able to roll the first one off, and then the second one comes down on him, and eventually he's able to get his gun out, and Sadiq, tackles the woman, which for some reason, I thought that looked really funny that he just tackled the zombie. But it was just yeah, that was kind of dumb. They almost got killed. It should have been boom, 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 done. And they just couldn't take out 3. And then it was just a cascade of zombies coming through the forest to try to eat them. So it's just alright, they barely made it out of that, but ultimately they do. And Carl kind of takes Sadiq and it's I'm responsible for you now. And, sure, my father probably wouldn't want you to join, but I asked you the questions. I trust you now. I gave you the food. You didn't stab me in the back, that sort of thing. So they're going to go to the camp and everything should be good. Like I said, I don't remember Sadiq, but who knows, could be a betrayal thing. I really don't remember from the comics. I don't think there was an element like that, but I honestly just can't freaking remember. So we'll see how that plays out, but ultimately, we move on to the rest of the group in Alexandria. We get to see Michonne and Rosita team up. That I thought was pretty cool. It was actually really awesome. Especially, there's one moment in particular, and that was, of course, Rosita shooting that dude with the freaking rocket launcher, just blowing him up. I was that was pretty awesome. He was you're not gonna shoot that, and she just pulled the trigger. She didn't wait or anything. I was well, that was super freaking sweet. But the two of them go, because Michonne is I gotta see the sanctuary. So Rosita's alright, well, I'll go with you. They're both wounded, but they go anyway. Then they hear this music playing, and it's alright, well, let's check this out. They end up getting busted, so they're running through this little garage as they deal with these 2 people. Of course, Rosita drops her gun, so she ends up seeing the rocket launcher, blows that dude to pieces. With that happening, that distracts both Michonne and the other woman, so the other woman takes off, and she gets in the truck, and it's oh crap. They were, setting up these speakers and the music to get to the sanctuary to save, the saviors, and, just draw the rest of the walkers away, and it's crap, we failed. And I was oh man, where's this headed? And then a freaking garbage truck comes and bashes into that truck. And then it turns out that Daryl and Tara had already left, and that's how they end up there. So they just slam into the truck. Daryl just gets out, boom, boom, he just shoots the woman in the truck, and it's alright, well, that was super close, but we took care of it. And it was just boom, just all the speakers just flying everywhere, and I was alright, well, I didn't see that coming. They just had, the rocket launcher thing was still probably more surprising, because it was I don't know, is she going to do it, is she not going to do it? Because, they could go with, the overly bombastic thing like most television shows where like a rocket launcher is gonna cause like a nuclear explosion or something crazy like that. But it was fairly realistic. It was like, it hit. There was a big enough explosion, but she was. If it was real life, I think she still would have been technically too close, especially considering that would have blown up some more stuff. There would have been like shrapnel flying when it like hit, because it was a missile hitting a guy basically, and just things flying outward towards her. She should have had like a couple of bits on her, I think, because they weren't that far away. But it was realistic enough. She blew that guy up, and it was just like, well, that was cool. And then seemingly the woman escapes. Garbage truck slams into her. They kill her, and it's like, all right, well, now we have our two teams that kind of went out instead of waiting. It's like, all right, we need to get some stuff done. Let's go to Sanctuary, and that's what they do. So by the end, they get to Sanctuary. They see all the zombies and everything. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out in the next episode, because that seems like where things are going to start to really come together as far as, will the saviors end up escaping or will they not escape. So I'm really looking forward to how these four characters being there really changes the dynamic of the next episode, especially with the focus being on Dwight and Eugene knowing the truth and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to how that element of the story is going to change based on how crazy things get with the four of them in this truck. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. Of course, Carol had her own storyline in this episode where like they start off the episode with the letters. Everybody's talking about, this is what happened. These are the people that were killed and stuff like that. And so she tries to talk with Ezekiel. That doesn't really pan out in the beginning of the episode. Her plan is to idiotically go to the sanctuary alone, and so this kid follows her, also dumb, but she ends up saving him, and is like, alright, well, we're going to do this. And then ultimately they end up just going back, and she ends up talking to Ezekiel for a minute. And it was like, okay, simple little storyline, like her kind of realizing some things, and trying to help him come back from like this really, really dark place after he lost all these people, because he is still the leader, of the kingdom. It's like, and he mentions like, you made me feel real, like not this act that I was putting on, but like, actually a real person, like who he truly is, not King Ezekiel. And she mentions like, you are real to me, and you kind of need to be real in general, regardless, and just, he needs to be there, like in some way. So I thought that was a pretty cool storyline, and I don't know if they'll really pick up on that too much in the next episode. It seems like a lot of stuff is going to be happening, so I don't know if they'll be doing like this, because this had actually like quite a few stories going on. So I don't know if the kingdom will actually play a big role in the next episode, but that does take us to the hilltop, and we get to see that Maggie decides to let all those people in. Jesus kind of got his wish where, everyone gets to go in. The one douchey guy that was, messing with Morgan, he gets hit in the head with a gun because he tries to reach, as they're being kind of put into the cages and everything, he tries to reach, and Maggie just hits him straight in his head. And she could have killed him, but it was like, nope, already made the deal. You guys will come in here, we'll feed you, all that stuff, leave you alive. And then she throws Gregory in there, and of course he was freaking out. He's like, like, what are you talking about? Like, sheep and wolves. And he was just freaking out. And I thought they were actually going to have the line in there where she would just flat out say, look, if you want to argue about it, you can either go in the cage, or you can just be outside and just see what happens out there. And I thought they would have her, actually say that, but ultimately it was like, nope, she's already letting these people in. She doesn't threaten them or anything like that. It's just like, this is the decision I've officially made. This is where you're going. Of course, he fights back so much, he ends up falling, he hits his head, and he's bleeding and stuff, and he's crying as they, drag him in. But ultimately, he's just kind of tucked off in the corner, just alone, and kind of just trapped out there. But, they go through this interesting process of her making this decision, and whether or not that's a good idea, and they kind of show the dichotomy of these characters that have now become prisoners. And we have the douchey guy who's like trying to go for the gun and fight back and everything, but then you have this other character who's talking to Jesus early on in the episode, and then after Maggie knocks the guy out, he looks at her, he's like, thank you, like basically for not killing us. And he actually thanks her. So it's kind of that interesting thing, and I think I mentioned this in my last review, where I'm pretty sure it's going to lead towards some of the people that are in prison are going to be like, she could have totally killed us off, rightfully so, but she didn't. So those people will stick with Maggie, and then people like the douchey guy, because I know he has a name, but he's the douchey guy to me. But people like him will be like, nope, it is going to be Negan 100%. They even actually have them talk about that, where we'll just call him the good guy, he's like, I'm not gonna let you, like, you already tried it once, I'm not gonna let you screw up again and get us all killed. And then the other guy's like, man, this is all gonna be ours pretty soon. Like, that's how he's thinking. And then we see from the other guy's perspective. So it's almost like already right there. Like, some of these people are gonna stick with Maggie because she was insanely kind to them. And then some people were just gonna be like, nope, I am Negan 100%. So I think that is ultimately how that's gonna play out. And it seems like they're already hinting at that with these two characters having, you know, completely opposite ideals after being in prison. So I like that idea. We'll see what Gregory does and, you know, how that ends up forming. But, you know, I thought that was pretty cool. We actually get to see more from the Aaron/Eric storyline, and of course the sadness that comes from that loss. And it was kind of funny because this was like the whole point of the beginning, but it gets to the end, and it's like we have once again two characters being like, all right, it's time for us to leave and, you know, do some stuff even though we're not really supposed to leave. And I just thought it was funny that that was like basically at the end of the episode, and then it was like two more people deciding to leave their camp to kind of do their own thing and figure some stuff out. And it's even referenced, he was like, you know, you should probably get some supplies and food and stuff because we might be gone for a while. And I was like, that's very interesting because that's not just a little trip, like, let's see what happens here. That's kind of going back into the fray 100%. So I'm curious how they're going to kind of play out in the next episode. I would assume their storyline will have some relevance in the next episode as well. But definitely looking forward to that. We only have 2 more episodes left. And then we also have the final storyline for this episode, which of course is Rick going to the trash people. That's just what I'm going to call them. And he tries to make another deal with them, and that does not play out too well. They end up taking him away. I thought they were kicking him out in the beginning of the episode, and it was just, you know, he's by himself, and that was all there was to it. I was like, oh, okay, they just, you know, it's like, nah, no deal. Get out of here. And it ended up being that they actually just took him, and he's now inside of this container, and he's, you know, he's locked up, and she puts the A on it at the end of the episode for Alexandria, with that being just Rick. So he's in there, and he's, you know, looking through the hole and everything, and he's just trapped nude in a cargo hold. I was like, all right, well, I don't think that'll have too much of an effect on the war or anything like that, but I'm excited to see where that goes, because these people are not in the comics, so I like that really big change. I'm really enjoying. So I don't really know how things are about to play out, how long Rick is going to be trapped in this cargo hold. He mentions early on that people do know where he's at, and I was wondering, even when he said that, I was like, is that true? I mean, because it makes sense that they would know, but at the same time, like, the episode starts, and he's literally by himself, and I was just like, I don't know where he's at, but he seemingly was reading one of the notes from one of the other areas, but when it starts off, it's just him by himself. Like, he got that note somehow, if that's even what he was actually reading. So I was like, I assume with the way they kind of cut it, that was him reading one of the notes from the other, you know, villages, but it was like, I don't know 100%, because it didn't look like it was him actually at Alexandria, and I guess that was, I want to say Daryl, I guess, giving him the note, because then the scene after is like Daryl riding off on the motorcycle, so I would assume that that's how we got the note, but it was still kind of like, did he actually tell Daryl? Do they actually know where he went? Because nobody went after him in this one episode. Granted, it was only a couple of hours, so maybe someone, you know, maybe it's after a certain amount of time, but pretty much all the main characters are like away, and then the 4 characters that were in Alexandria took off to do something else, so they probably won't be thinking about that in the next episode. It's like, well, we're at the sanctuary, I forgot he even, you know, did that thing, so Rick might just be locked up for a minute because everybody's kind of in the middle of war, which makes sense. So I am curious how that's going to play out for his character, but all in all, I think this was a pretty good episode. There were, oddly enough, a ton of storylines going on, I felt at least, but I think they all definitely flowed pretty well together. I think the pacing for this episode was actually pretty good, so looking forward to the next one. Seems like it's going to be a bit more chaotic. I think this one, aside from, you know, a couple of small moments like the stuff with Michonne and Rosita dealing with the people, aside from that, I think everything was fairly normal. Like, nothing was really chaotic. It was just the aftermath of chaos, or, you know, potentially leading into some chaos for some of the characters, like having a bunch of prisoners in your, you know, within your walls, or, in Rick's case, simply being captured. So there's some things where it might lead to more chaos, and then, of course, you have, like, Carol/Ezekiel's storyline, where it's them after the chaos. So I like the way all the episodes played out, but definitely looking forward to next week's episode, and the one after that, which is going to be our mid-season finale, so I can't wait to see how that plays out. But definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it, and I definitely want to know how you guys think things are going to play out now that Rick has been captured, and basically the trash people have decided we're going to stick with Negan. So I would love to know how you guys think that's going to play out. They know, of course, with Rick going to make that deal, like she even says, I was like, oh, you had the numbers, yet you come to us for help. So I would love to know your predictions on how that element is going to end up affecting the war. And like I said, I just want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.